When did the popular kid's life fall apart in a few seconds? When he had an affair with his best friend's mom. Dad died a few years before, and they got caught, so the mom got arrested for sex with a minor. The friend had to go live with other family with her younger siblings. Edit. It was statutory rape. He was 17. Got hit by a car. Went from bully to paraplegic. She was a bully. Nothing good to say about her. But that is a rough end. 3 popular kids went swimming in a quarry. Only 2 came out. It sucks because the one that died was popular for all the right reasons. He was a genuinely good dude. I was the weird kid. But his locker was right next to mine and he was friendly every single day to every single person. Lost control of his car when he and his best friend were driving to Taco Bell at night. He came out of it with a fractured collarbone. His friend died on the spot. He was really close with his friend's parents too and vice versa. He made a few posts on Facebook on how he was an idiot and how sorry he was. The dead friend's sister and parents made it very clear that they didn't blame him. It was winter, black ice, and he was 100% sober. Before he was, like, a stereotypical popular dude but in the wholesome way. Dropped out of school and became addicted to painkillers. Don't know what happened to him afterwards, but it was just sad for everyone. He ended up becoming a second grade teacher and molested little girls in his class. Now he's in prison for an incredibly long time. One kid on school was popular only because he liked to start it and bully everyone. So most people were friends with him just to avoid being a victim. One day he tried that on the wrong kid. Got beat up so bad to the point he started crying. Honestly, I think it was a win for the bully because it gave him a pretty good wake-up call. Became less of a bully and is now quite humble. His dad died. It was really itty. Before that he was popular, but also smart, motivated, a great athlete and actually a great guy and person. As much as you can be till you're 15. Then his dad died right before he was going to have a football game. Heart attack in the shower before they were gonna leave for it. We heard about it later. And basically, from there, everything seemed to decline. He became angry as you could expect. And I think looking back you'd expect a decline in everything at first. But he just spiraled deeper and deeper. We didn't see him for a while. When I did catch up with him later in high school, he'd been so into drugs his brain literally seemed fried. It was sad for every reason. When he hit and killed a state trooper on the freeway while the trooper was out of his car trying to remove debris from the road. I actually ran into one of the super popular kids at the local bar when I came home from college. She would never give me the time of day in high school and I for sure thought she didn't even know I existed. But she approached me at the bar, super drunk, and said, "Hey, didn't I go to high school with you?" She then proceeded to tell me she wished she had been nicer to more people in high school and that she has no idea what she's doing with her life. Honestly feels good to know that she's thought about how she treated people back then. Not sure if that's the norm or just a weird occasion. Well, a super popular cheerleader girl at my school ended up falling down some stairs and broke her back and got paralyzed and has to use a wheelchair ever since. So yes, that is one example answer. Stairs are not a joke. He was an only child, and his dad had died when he was 2, was really happy-go-lucky, and he was popular because he was outgoing, supportive, warm and kind to everybody without fail. And although he was friends with the kind of kids who bullied people, he was the first person to tell them to knock that it off if he saw it. When we were 16, his mum, who was one of the nicest ladies I ever met in our small town, was crushed to death by a semi-trailer that drifted into her lane. He dropped out of school. He stopped talking to anybody, and he refused to let anyone visit him. I have no idea what became of him. Sorry Jay, I hope your life got better. He got made fun of because he wanted to wait to have a sex with his new GF, popular girl, so he caved and did it. Teen pregnancy. At this cliff that was really dangerous, and to keep kids away the genius locals spread around the rumor that it was haunted. Naturally the cool kids wanted to go there like all the time. Once the gang of those supposedly cool kids, 4 in total, went there and no one really knows what happened. One kid jumped to his death. The stories of the rest didn't pan out correctly. Each one had a different version. They were high, No one was jailed, but all 3 were depressed and eventually spiraled out of control. 1 OD'd 2 years later. 1 was in a car accident, drunk, and 1 committed suicide. One of the most popular girls in my high school had a blood clot that killed her in her sleep in the middle of the school year. Unfortunately, a cheerleader from my school had a 4-wheeling accident that left her in an almost vegetative state. Through years and years of hard work on her part, she's been able to gain a little more independence. However, she'll never be exactly the same as she was before the accident. It's really sad and crazy how quickly your life can change from an accident. The stud quarterback about 2 years ahead of me has been narcaned at least half a dozen times. He might be dead now. Not sure if that was a problem for him in high school, but I heard he had a nasty pain pill habit in college and probably transitioned to heroin from there. In the 5th grade, our terrible teacher at the time told the entire class that the reason the popular kid acted out was because he didn't get enough attention at home. She did this in front of the entire class, and he left the room sobbing. My entire perspective of him changed that day, and we all already knew that the teacher was a terrible person, but that solidified it in all of our minds. He sent a video of him sucking his own D to his girlfriend, and then it was leaked to the whole school. He FaceTimed his girlfriend and she screen recorded him putting a baseball bat in his ass. Like, in his ass. His parents divorced and he started acting out. He went from good grades and clubs to failing and drugs. Guy on the football team sent a girl's nudes to the entire football team, and a good portion of people in my grade got arrested during class. I haven't seen him since. She was in a terrible car wreck and came out of it covered in thick scars, a wobble when she waked, and mentally challenged. She tried to fight me after our shoulders bumped in the hallway. It was an accident, but it was nice to see after a near-death collision she was still a massive cunt. When I made him cry, he had been bullying me at school every day for nearly 3 years, for 2 things I had no control over: my poverty and my physical appearance. I badly needed braces my family could not afford at that point, and I had had enough. I had discovered that he was adopted, so I told him, in front of our classmates, that his real parents probably wanted no part of him because they could tell he'd grow up to be nothing but a piece of it. I got in trouble for that, but it was worth it to see him cry for once, and he left me alone after that. The captain of the football team underwent surgery his senior year. I was 13 on the middle school team. His younger brother and I were very close, so I was around him a lot. I looked up to him like an older brother. He drove me to early practices, was very smart, dated a pretty cheerleader, not a mean bone in his body. He had it all. For a 13-year-old, he was my hero. After his surgery he got hooked on painkillers. He went from painkillers to heroin. He was arrested multiple times for theft and drug possession. This went on for years. I would always ask my friend from middle school how he was doing. It never got better. He died last year. Drugs suck. I miss my hero. Edit. Typo. Also, thank you for all your support on this comment. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction to anything, please ask for help from someone. My PMs are always open as well. Since everyone is talking about people dying, I was the popular kid whose life fell apart in seconds and didn't die. I was a good student, athlete etc, but I sold weed. One day, I came into class and got arrested in front of my AP history class and escorted out of the school between classes so everyone was in the hall. I got expelled, kicked out of parents' house, and kept getting in trouble. As far as everyone I grew up was concerned, I ended up in jail. My life spiraled, but then I joined the Marines, which definitely helped me, but then I got badly injured and had to fight the VA over 10 years for my benefits. It was a rough 15 years. One day I decided to try coding and realized it was the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. I now write software for banks and live by the beach in SoCal. Everyone still thinks I'm in jail, lol. Edit. Holy cow, you guys. I've never gotten an award, let alone 5. I hope I've been answering everyone's questions and responded to all your direct messages. You have no idea how much your responses mean to me. Thank you. I'm not sure I would call him the popular kid, but in some circles he was. He was a bit of an arrogant ass in my opinion, but had money and liked to spread it around. His dad was a wealth manager. Lots of friends, family, community members were clients. A few years after high school it came out that dad had embezzled millions. Their entire wealth was stolen from friends and family. This rocked him hard. Dad went to jail and he changed his name and totally became a different person. I saw him after that and barely recognized him. His personality and even his posture was different. I felt really bad for him. I ended up having a really good talk with him and I can only imagine what he has gone through. Edit. Wow. Lots of people have asked for details on location and was it so and so, which tells me this has clearly happened before. I won't give any more details other than it wasn't in the US. He wrecked his car into a wall and died on prom night. In the 8th grade there was a really popular kid in my school that was the head of the football team. He was also a huge bully, would beat nerds up for no reason at least twice a week. One day he either got drunk or high and jumped off a bridge as a prank. I'm not sure how he didn't know that the lake he jumped into was riddled with underwater trees, as you can see the branches during the daytime. Either way, I don't think his body was found. Our school held a huge memorial for him, but I will always remember him as a bully. This guy tried to drop all his friends to become a popular kid. BC he had a massive ego, but he ended up just losing all his friends and getting nothing in return. When we walked across the stage, I was amazed by how much simpler university relationships were compared to high school. Popular people who picked on me in high school were suddenly desperately in need of a friendly face and it was all water under the bridge. My brother was the popular kid in school. He was loved by everyone. And most of the people I graduated with know him, but since we have different last names didn't know we were related until I told them. He started pills in high school, then coke, then heroin, in and out of jail, forced into rehab instead of serving jail time, lived in our mom's basement until he was 30. He finally moved out but my parents pay his rent. He's a year sober now though. This guy I used to hang out with in elementary school was pretty overweight, but I'd had the biggest crush on him. I lost track of him for a few years, but by high school he came back and had lost all the weight. He was pretty athletic and was generally well liked. I didn't talk to him, but the guy seemed decent. I guess he liked driving like an idiot. The year after he graduated he wrapped his car around a pole. They had to use the jaws of life to pull him out of his car, but it was too late. Head died on impact. There had been multiple reports that night of people calling the cops to complain about his reckless driving around town. I just remember that chubby little boy I used to spend recess with every day. He started doing heavy drugs and fist fought the vice principal. Parents kicked him out at 18. Haven't heard much since. He gambled on a fart and lost. Went from a jerk-ass hotshot to a jerk-ass hotit. He was caught with nude photos of girls from our school on his phone. Those same girls didn't even send those to him. He became a registered Red 6 offender, then had to attend a lot of court. Then he was filed for sexual assault, for other reasons than the pictures, and was proven guilty. No one really talked to him after the incidents and then he quickly moved away, never to be seen again. Edit. Grammar. 6'3" football player, drug dealer and general at bad, got arrested 2 weeks before going to college. His family was really poor, but he had a full ride. In spite of his obvious drug habits, selling to middle schoolers, and various other itty extracurriculars, somehow his record gets swept under the rug and time to still go. Much like his high school GPA, halfway through the first semester he gets shot in the gut at a drug deal that went wrong. He survived and last I heard he got picked up by another college. I've no idea how he graduated high school, let alone how he got away with the rest of it. I guess in the South being good at football takes you most anywhere. Far as I know he hasn't fallen apart yet, but it seems to be only a matter of time. He came out. At least he's happy now. I see him with his boyfriend in the halls sometimes. They look great together. Her mom was ducking the principal. Popular girl kept talking it on me for literally no reason. Blamed Emmy for somebody's suicide. Encouraged all her little friends to do the same. I befriended her friends and they ended up really liking me and told her I don't know why you hate her, she's the nicest girl ever, and ever since then they started realizing how itty of a human she really was. Well, I was expecting some extremely embarrassing stories about the popular kids that made them look like fools. These all just break my heart. Except for the bat one. That one fulfills my expectations. One of the popular kids at my school did sugar in the bathroom, and then saw a female security on his way out, so he decided to put her in a chokehold. But he then was shown how that was a huge mistake when that security guard was a ducking gymnast and she saved herself, got him in jail. A kid in HS who was a big jock got busted for a DUI. Instead of taking the hit for the DUI, the kid agreed to go around town and help bust the places who were selling booze to minors. Blip. In one weekend none of us could use our fake IDs or get beer. It got out who helped get the places busted. The guy was literally treated like a leper until graduation. Took a few years, but he moved to CA to be an actor and he was not very good at all. Now moved back to TX and works at some temp placing agency. Got beaten up by the guys he bullied and died of his injuries. Actually, a little after high school, this kid was one of the most well-liked kids in school. Literally everyone loved him. He even showed up to the funeral of some kid he never hung out with outside of school when the aforementioned kid committed suicide. His dad got really sick after his freshman year of college, and after his dad was hospitalized for months before needed an extremely serious procedure done to save his life, he took the next semester off from school to care for his dad. This kid also lost one of his best friends to addiction and a close family friend. Life just started to kick the id out of him. He's still a great guy, but after experiencing something serious like that, it wears on a person. He's more quiet than he used to be, but still the same great guy. He sent around the nudes of a girl he was ducking. Dude was a D and I don't think many people outside of his clique felt bad about it. Football star and lead singer of our choir was arrested for raping a freshman. It split the school in half because there was no evidence and he was black and she was white. He was convicted and years later she said she lied at a party to a bunch of people when drunk. He rejected her and she was angry, so that was her revenge. Even with that statement they won't reopen the case though. She has a happy life with kids in a nearby town and he gets out in 5 years and it's fucking sad. When I was in 5th grade, back in the 1960s, there was a kid in our class named Lawrence. He was the best student in our class. Always finished math tests way before anyone else, and the best athlete, so picked first for every team sport. One day, during class, a lady from the principal's office came in, whispered something to our teacher, and then the two of them escorted Lawrence out into the hallway. A few minutes later, our teacher returned and told us that Lawrence's father had been killed in Vietnam when the helicopter he was in was shot down. Lawrence never returned our school. My older brother was in Nam at that time. He made it back safe. That was the day the full reality of the war really hit me. When they graduated and realized that life is way more than school. Even worth struggling through college on your own, I'm sure. This was years ago and I only met the guy after the fact. At school he was a baseball player and had a scholarship to University of Hawaii for that. He was a good looking kid. Apparently he smoked a joint laced with PCP and it fried his brain. I met him a few years later when I was working the night shift at a suburban Bay Area 7-Eleven. He was the guy that would be standing out in front of the store at 2 o'clock in the morning talking to himself. I later heard he had fallen off an overpass. Went out drinking on a Saturday night with a friend of his. He drove home and slammed into a brick wall at 40 miles per hour if I remember that correctly. His friend in the passenger's seat barely survived, but he died on impact. Teacher here. High school football star yelled some racist shit to another school's player while stopped at a traffic light, but he didn't know the person he was yelling at was recording. The guy posted the video on Twitter. You can clearly see who it is. Twitter attacked. Guy went from quarterback team captain with several offers for D1 schools to absolutely nothing. I'm sure he'll still go to college or something. And hopefully he can learn from this and change his outlook. She got a boyfriend at 13 and he was 18. She got pregnant at 19 by him and he split. She now has 5 kids all by different fathers, none of which stuck around. Her parents kicked her out after the first kid because they were strict Christians. Abstinence only was the only contraception. She wasn't a nice person at all. She would bully, berate and laugh at anybody who didn't have a picture perfect life like she did. Her parents were a lawyer and a doctor. Yes, a medical doctor that promoted abstinence only in the UK. Members of the PTA. Her clique were all of similar upbringing and their parents had similar standing in the community. Her picture perfect life ended the moment that test came back positive. She hoped her boyfriend would propose and they'd get married quickly so it could be covered up by the baby being premature. Apparently he laughed in her face and left. I hated her in school and suffered her bullying, but nobody deserves that. Our small town star quarterback was busted a year after graduating for 2 pot joints under the driver's seat of his car. It was the 60s, so a felony. He served 1 year in county jail, 5 years on probation, and has a felony on his record. Damn. Asterisk. Ed. I knew he got high sometimes. Hell, so did I. But the bust scared the hell out of me and a bunch of other folks. Mr. QB left his car at the curb and went into a coffee shop. When he came out, the whole police force of 5 cops surrounded him and searched his car and found 2 joints under the seat. My friends and I were pretty sure he was set up and the joints planted by another guy who rode with him that day and disappeared from the town less than a week later. RIP the QB's college sports scholarship dreams. I got the duck out of that town a few months later and didn't return for years. It still sucked. Him and a kid I've known since about 1st grade drove about 8-9 hours to visit a friend who had moved away at the time and was feeling depressed. They were going to surprise him and he called saying he found a way to get a plane ticket back to them, where they all 3 were friends originally, while they were already 14 hours deep in a road trip. So they turned around and when they were about 45 minutes from home, they got into a bad accident and he died on the scene. The kid I knew from 1st grade watched his best friend bleed out next to him upside down in his car. He had long hair and the paramedics thought he was a female upon arrival, and 1st grade friend said he was desperately trying to tell them he was a boy and his name and to call his family to tell them what happened. He was pronounced dead before the ambulance even took off. 1st grade friend came back to school after a little under 2 months with a 16-inch long and about 1-inch wide scar all the way up the back of his arm. They were in a band together and played in the school's band. Hallways were bleak for months. Probably the rest of the year, honestly. He sat with us at lunch and tried to be normal, but we all knew he wasn't the same. They were good people, and even though only one of them died, it was like they both left that day because he was never the same. I don't even think he makes music anymore. I knew them both for almost 10 years when it happened, and it was the first time somebody I knew that was my age had died, and it was very sobering. You know nobody's immortal, but you don't expect somebody to be ripped from existence so quickly.